webinar. Today we will be talking about the ICD-10 Superbill. I'm going to show you what Management Plus has created for you to use and implement in your practice for ICD-10, kind of gearing up for that. We're also going to talk about how you can edit that Superbill and customize it for your own office. And you'll kind of understand why when I get into it. We're not going to be customizing these, but we will be sending the Superbill out at your request. So what we're going to do, first thing I want to show you is the Superbill. And I want to talk about ICD-10 from the standpoint of what can you be doing now, aside from attending this webinar, what can your office be doing, what should you be doing now to prepare for ICD-10. As far as we know, it's on October 1st. Everything's going forward. I did attend an ICD-10 webinar yesterday, and everyone on there said the same thing. This is happening. So we are going to move forward planning for October 1st. Now, the first thing that you should be doing is getting education. Sending your staff, your front desk, your technicians, back office, front office, doctors, everybody, get them education on ICD-10. The more you're familiar with it, the longer, the more time that you have to work with it, it's going to make more sense. Now, as most of you know, I do not have a billing background, but as I created this ICD-10 Superbill, I used the beautiful ICD-10 book for ophthalmology from the AAO, and after making this Superbill, it makes a lot more sense to me. It makes sense. I understand how the codes are created. So in designing this Superbill, I did so in the easiest way we could come up with to make it easy to understand, easy to follow, and easy to use the correct code based on each patient's diagnosis, the right or left eye, and so on. So what we're going to do is we're going to go look at the Superbill. Okay? To find your Superbill, it's under File Billing, Billing Setup, and Superbill Templates. All right? Now there's going to be a whole list in my system that you are not going to have in yours, and that's okay. But we have named it just ICD-10 Superbill. Now you'll see I have two of them. I'm going to show you, we're just going to work with one of them now, but I will show you the second one toward the end of this webinar. The only difference is the location of the patient demographics. One of them has the patient demographics and the office information at the top of the Superbill. The other one has it located at the bottom. That is the only difference between the two. Everything else is identical. All right? So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to open this up. And don't be overwhelmed when we look at this. There's a lot of information on this page, and we're going to go through and talk about it. Okay, hopefully you're able to see this screen okay. You might want to maximize the screen on your side if you can't. But what I want to do is I actually want to teach you how to edit a Superbill. Okay, when we send this to you, we can email it to your office. And then we can go in, you can go in and edit each field and customize it to what your office wants. What's going to work best for your staff, for your doctors. All right? So I want to teach you how to edit the Superbill and how it is pieced together. All right? So everything on this screen that we are looking at is a shape box, or a label, just a plain text label, or it's a patient demographic field. All right? So we've created, and all of these are layered on top of each other. So all of these lines and boxes that you see, those are all fields that we have just kind of stacked on top and shaped and moved around and stretched out and adjusted to make this Superbill that is quite pretty when you print it out. So each of these up at the top, we're just going to kind of start at the top and work our way down this page. At the top, you can see we have a few different fields. Right now it says your name here. All right? we don't want to print this out for your doctors saying your name here, the patient's, that makes no sense. So we need to go in and customize this for our practice. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to use Management Plus as our practice for information and show you how to edit these. Each of these labels or fields you can click on with the mouse. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on it. You'll notice once I click on it, we've got this box over here that's called the Component Inspector. Okay, this little box shows all of the specifications and the information for this label that I have selected. All right, so you can see up at the top it shows that it's just a label component. The alignment, anchors, those really don't matter. The few fields that you will want to know and become familiar with, the first one is called caption. Okay, this is the text that goes inside of that label. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change this just to say Management Plus. Okay, and we're going to go eye care. And then you need to make sure you hit Enter or Tab. Okay, so once you've hit Enter or Tab, it's going to update our label up here. So now it says Management Plus Eye Care. All right. Same thing for our phone number. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to click in that Component Inspector and change my caption to the phone number that I want to display. Okay. Here's our phone number. So then again, once I hit Enter, it's going to update that information up at the top. Now, the other fields on this Component Inspector, a lot of these you won't have to worry about. The font does expand, so you can go in and you can change the style of the font if you prefer. If you don't like Arial Narrow, you can go in and change it to Times Roman or to anything you want just by typing it in that field, okay? Then we have the size. This is the font size. If I wanted my phone number to be bigger, I can change the size of my font. And then if you look up here, our label is, that text is now font size 12. All right. If you go into the style, that's where you have your bold and italic and underline and so forth. So you have complete control of the style, the lettering, the size of how this is going to print. All right. The other boxes I'm going to talk about just kind of as an FYI. You really shouldn't have to change too much unless you get really comfortable and you just want to change the size of these boxes and labels and everything. So the height, that's just how high the label is. If I have my font size at 9 and I change the size of my actual field to a 6, you can see I'm not going to see my phone number at all. So of course that needs to be bigger than my font size. Okay, the left and the top, that's just the pixels where that label is positioned. Okay, so it's 13 pixels from the top, 558 from the left side of this page. All right, that's all those are. And then the width is just the width of that label. It's not really necessary to change the width unless we're trying to fit it into a small space. The phone number that we're looking at now, that doesn't matter. But if I were to come down and click on, say, a CPT code, 92015, I need to make sure it fits in that column, so my width is going to be much smaller. Okay? So as we go through, you're going to edit this information to show your practice information. Okay. All right, so we've got our address in there. Now again, if I wanted to move these around, you can do that. We can make the label or the name of the practice bigger. I can put my phone number over here, and then I can click on my name and put it over here simply by dragging those around the screen to where I want them. All right? So you will have that choice in customizing this label, or I'm sorry, this Superbill. Okay, so that's just kind of standard information. Those are pretty simple. The next section is all of our patient demographic information. So you can see it's a combination of a label, name, account number, date, doctor, and then we actually have the patient demographic field, the Management Plus field, that is telling the system what information to put next to the label of name. All right, we want the patient's name. Then we want the account number, the date of the appointment, the doctor's name that they're seeing. We continue on with the address, phone number, date of birth, gender, and then we have more fields over here. Now, these fields, they're not labels, but they're also not patient information fields. All right? Up at the top of this Superbill Designer, we have all these fun little icons. I'm not going to overwhelm anybody with going through every one because, quite honestly, from this clock all the way over here to the SB, you will not use any of those. Okay, those are all pulling from an old, this used to be an EHR form designer, which we do not use anymore. We have not used it in years and years, but it is amazing for Superbills. So we don't need to add gradient or clocks or any of that stuff to our Superbill. But over on the right side, we have these other little buttons. These buttons are designed to pull different information. For example, if I were to go and click, this is a scheduling button. If I click that and I go ahead and click anywhere over here on my white page, okay, you can see this little tiny gray box that it wasn't very wide at all. But from here, I have this blank field. I can right click and I can go into my control properties. Properties controlling what populates in that field, and now I can go down and I can pull appointment date or location or procedure time or whatever else I need to pull. Okay? At that point, once I have that selected, I could move it wherever I wanted to move it. All right? You do have, if you accidentally add something that you don't really want on there, you can right-click on that field and you can delete that, and then it's gone from your Superbill. So any changes that you don't want, you can remove those if you accidentally click on something. All right? So again, these fields up at the top, the Superbill, just to let you know what that one looks like, is the Superbill field. Right-click, we go to Control Properties, and we have more choices, you know, physician name, procedure, disposition of the appointment. So there's a few more options in there. Now, the way the Superbill is set up currently, the way we will send it to you, we already have the appointment time, the reason for the appointment, the procedures, any notes that have been entered for that appointment. That information is all here. If there's something that you want set up differently, you can certainly call our support team and ask, you know, okay, well, I can't find it. Where do I pull this information? This is the data that I want on my Superbill. Okay, so same thing down here. We have all of our insurance information. Now, the next section of the Superbill is all of our CPT codes, the procedure codes. Okay, we do have them split up into sections: new patients, established, diagnostic, and so forth. Now, we know that not everybody is going to use the same codes. A lot of them are pretty similar and consistent, but not everyone uses the same codes. What I did to create this Superbill, we took the top 100 codes that all of our clients are billing, okay? And we went through those and said, okay, everybody's using this one and this one, and 98% of people are using these codes. So we did our best, knowing that there's still going to be changes that need to be made. So what you can do is we have the fields already here for you. If you don't want it to say level 2, you can come over here and just change your caption. Forgot my caps lock is on, and say new patient, exam, whatever. Okay? If you don't want it to say level 2. The same thing with the code. If you don't use 99202, but you use 92203, you can change that code. All right? It's just a label. Everything else on the bottom of this Superbill is simply a label, so you're just changing the caption. You'll notice we did add blank lines in here. Okay, there's a couple of blank spaces. There's some room down here, a few over under the surgical, and so forth. Those spaces are there intentionally so that if there is something that, okay, I need all of these codes, but I need another one. Okay, maybe I need a level 6, or maybe I need a level 1. You can go up to the top of this Superbill Designer and click on this little A icon. This little A is your text. Okay, that is a label. So we click on that. We come over here to the blank area on your Superbill because it's better to have what you want before you try and move it over here to match the left and the top and the height and everything. So we're going to click, we're going to put a label. Okay, now my recommendation is once you have the one label that you want, go back and switch it back to your cursor. It's not a bad thing, it's just kind of annoying, and I've done it countless times. I'll forget to change it back to my cursor. I have my label, and I click, and all of a sudden I have all of these other labels that I don't really want. Okay, so I can just go back to your cursor. In the event that this happens, you can highlight one at a time, right-click and delete, or you can highlight and use your Shift key to multi-select, and then we can right-click and delete all of those at once. And now we just have the label that I want to have. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to make this up. We're going to go level 6. This is going to be an extreme, so we're just going to call it level 6. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and shrink this down just a little bit because I know, just knowing I don't need my label that big because I don't have that much room over here to put it under new patients. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this guy. You can kind of see that gray box going with me, and we're going to put it where approximately it goes. All right. Now, I know that's not completely lined up at all. So what I can do is I can click on level 5 or the field right above it. Go over here to my little component inspector and see that level 5, the left margin of that field is at 26. So then I can click on level 6, and it's also at level 26. Okay. Well, why does it still look out of place? Well, I know it needs to come down a little bit because it's clearly sitting higher on that line than any of the other labels. So move this and come over here to another field. It doesn't matter which one that's on that same line. So we're going to go with the ocular photos, and I can come down and see, okay, the top of ocular photos is 242. All right. So then I go back over to level 6, and we're just going to highlight and change that to 242 and make sure I hit enter. Okay. Well, that still looks a little bit off to me. All right. And it's because the font is different. It's bigger. The word itself, the text, is larger than the others. So now I can come over here to my font, and sure enough, this is set to sans. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do Arial Narrow because I know that's what my others are, and now it matches perfectly. Okay. Once I'm done, now I have my level 6 added. I can grab another label, and we're just going to make up a code that's not real. Here's our code, and I know automatically, because we just did it, this needs to be changed to Arial Narrow. Okay, but now I still have to move that field, or I'm sorry, that code to the right place. All right, so it's not lined up. And there I go, adding more labels that we don't need. Okay, here's my little guy, my little field right here. I know that that was 242. Okay, I either wrote it down or I remembered it, but it's still not quite right. So I can click on the one above it and find out the left position of that. So basically, it is time, it is time consuming to go through and edit these. But you're using the existing information to get everything lined up in the correct place. All right. As we go down, here's our diagnosis codes. So now let's really talk about the purpose of this webinar, which is ICD-10. So all of you know or have heard that ICD-10, there's several thousand more codes that you're going to have to work with. If we were to add every one of those codes to a Superbill and printed it, your Superbill would be somewhere between 5 and 10 pages, depending on how detailed we got. So what we did is we went through and we found, again, using the top 100 codes for diagnosis codes, and we did this pulling reports from the clearinghouses of we did a selection, a sampling of all of our clients, and just ran a report of ICD-9 codes, what codes are being billed. Okay, most of them are the same, but with each one ICD-9 code, there could be up to 20 ICD-10 codes. So this is how this is set up. We still have them broken into groups, okay? We've got our conjunctiva, cornea, lids, anterior segments. There's more on the second page. We'll talk about those in a minute, but I want to focus on these first. All right, when we're looking at these codes, okay, conjunctivitis acute right here. This code, I'm going to deselect it just so you can kind of see it, but we're right here. This code is one of the more simple ones, okay, H10.3 pound. We used special characters on this Superbill to help you identify and use legends or keys that work with or in conjunction with these codes, all right? So we have conjunctivitis acute, H10.3 pound. What does that pound mean? We have notes in here to see the legend below for the meaning of special characters. So if I drop to the bottom of my page, this first field right here, this is my pound, okay? Pound equals 1 for the right eye, 2 for left eye, 3 for bilateral. So conjunctivitis acute, it would be H10.31 or 32 or 33, depending on which eye for that particular patient, okay? So with this Superbill, you have to replace the special characters, all right? That one, like I said, that one's one of the easier ones. If we go down a little bit, we have a cornea abrasion, corneal foreign body. You can see right here I have an extra little flag to say 7th digit. The ones that you see that have that 7th digit, they want those codes a step further than just which eye is it. And you can see the formatting is slightly different. So for abrasion, we have S05.0 pound X %. What does all of that mean? The 0 is actually part of the code. So S05.0 is part of the code. Then we have our pound sign. So I know automatically, okay, which eye? We're going to say it's the right eye. So now I have S05.01 X. In this code, X is actually a placeholder. So that X you do not have to replace. And if you look at the legend down here, there's nothing, X does not mean anything. So you're going to just include that X as part of the code. So we have 01X and then %. Again, back down to the bottom, we've got the little flag right here to say, okay, 7th digit is required for each code from categories S05, T15, T26, and T81. I cannot tell you what each of those categories mean. I just know that they need a 7th digit. The codes in these categories want to know, is it an initial, subsequent, or secular encounter? Okay, so with this abrasion, it's the right eye, and let's say it's an initial encounter. So our code is going to end up being S05.01XA. All right, we're just replacing the special characters from the legend that is going to print on the Superbill for you. Okay, some of the codes we're lucky enough to just have one code. Keratitis, there's only one code for it. You don't have to go figure out which eye, which quadrant of the lid, the severity, none of that. They don't need that. Okay, so we got lucky with a couple of them. It continues on. In the next column for lids, we have a new special character, blepharitis. Okay, all of these you can see now we have a $sign. Well, again, down at the bottom, instead of just saying which eye is it, they want to know for the lid, is it right upper, right lower, left upper, left lower, is it unspecified? So our code then becomes H01.01, and then we would choose 1 through 6 depending on the quadrant of the eye. So it is very, very important that as these exams take place, the eye, the quadrant, the severity is documented. That way when your billers are posting these charges, it's easy for them to see. They're not having to set it aside and go back and track down a chart, look in EHR, ask the doctor, ask the tech. It's all right there, okay? How you guys choose to make this work in your office is up to you, honestly. If you want, if you want the doctor to just put R for right or RL for right lower, that's up to you. I know some will probably just say, no, you need to, is it a 1, a 2, or a 3? It's up to you, all right? The anterior segment lens, those are back to the kind of more simple format, just the pound sign for which eye, all right? We did leave a note section for you because we know that everybody has notes, and then we're going to keep that key or that legend at the bottom of the page. Now, we're going to flip over and talk about page 2. This is a 2-page Superbill. So with the 2-page Superbill, if your printer cannot handle duplex printing, then it is going to print on 2 pages. You'll just need to staple them together. I'm working with development right now to make it use Management Plus resource to force the duplex, but again, the printer has to be able to handle it. Right now, as it currently stands today, when you go to print a duplex anything for Superbills, it is going to look for, trying to pull the printer property. So we're trying to change that to make it easier for you so that it's just one paper that prints out front and back. Okay? Now at the top of this page 2, you'll see that I went ahead and added the patient's name and account number. For those of you who may not have a duplex printer or they are going to go ahead and print 2 pages, you can kind of keep those together. If they do get separated, you know where they came from. All right? And again, we have our notes, see the legend below for special characters, and then we have down at the bottom our legend, exactly the same as it was on the front side. Okay? However, the codes on the back are slightly different. We have our retina codes. Those are all pretty simple, just the pound sign. Some of them don't require a different number. We have our diabetes codes. The diabetes codes are unique and have their own legend, okay? With the diabetic codes, the formatting is a little bit different. So basically, the different number that you will choose is in the first part of the code instead of at the end, all right? You can see in our codes we have .321, .329, 3139, 4149, 5159. 5159, all the 1s and 9s are specific to with or without macular edema. Okay, that's the difference between those. The beginning of the code, they all start with E1, and then we have this @ symbol. Okay, the @ symbol for diabetic codes needs to be replaced with one of these numbers, 0 if it's diabetes type 1, number 1 if it's diabetes type 2, or number 3 if it's other specified diabetes. Okay, so that one's a little bit different. They switched it up and put the changing character at the front instead of at the end, and that's why we gave it its own legend here. All right, we go over to glaucoma. Okay, the glaucoma codes, I also gave it its own legend right below those codes because the glaucoma codes require the stage, the severity stage, all right, on some of them. So primary open angle, we have H40.11X. Again, there's no X in the codes in the legend, so you don't need to replace it. But then we have the @ sign. So is it mild, moderate, severe, or intermediate? Okay. The low tension, the pigmentary glaucoma, those all require that change or that different character. The other ones, it just uses the normal legend at the bottom. Is it right, left, or bilateral? All right. And the same thing when we get over to the visual change motility. Really just which eye. So anytime you see a special character on this Superbill, you will want to look for the legend and pick the right digit from that legend based on the character. Okay, so that is how the Superbill is set up. That's a kind of a glance at how those ICD-10 codes are going to work. Some of these, it's the same thing as the procedure codes. We know there will be other codes that need to be added, and that is why there is space in here. That's why we have the extra lines for you to go in and add labels, to add the codes that are specific to your office, the ones that you use most, because this is not, this is not all of them by any stretch of the imagination. I'm sure we all wish they were, but they're not. So that's why we want you to know how to add those codes. They are just labels. So if I wanted to go add a label to page 2, I can drop that in a new section as many times as I needed to. Okay? Now, how do we get this to you? Okay, like I mentioned, our support team can email you a Superbill template. All right? What we would need to know is, do you want the Superbill with the information at the top, or let's go look at the one at the bottom. Okay, same information. We have all of our CPT codes, diagnosis codes, and then you can see all of our demographics, and office name is at the very bottom of the page instead. All right, it's edited the exact same way. It's all just labels and text. All right, so what we have done is we have a file that we'll send to you. Okay, it is it's going to be ICD-10 Superbill bottom or top .sbt. All right, the file name doesn't really matter. When you get that email from us, you'll save that file to your desktop. Then you're going to come in here under File, Billing, Billing Setup, Superbill Designer, Superbill Templates, and you're going to be looking at this screen. You have to have at least one Superbill in here in order to import it, the new one. All right? So we send you an email. You've saved the file. You're going to come to this screen. You're going to go to Import, and you're going to browse to that file on your desktop. Here's our ICD-10, and now you can see I have a third option in my Superbill template screen. Okay? If you do not have a Superbill, if this is just blank, we're going to call it blank just so I can get rid of everything. If it is blank, then what you need to do first is click Add. Just so you know, we will email these instructions to you when we do send the Superbill. We're going to go up to File, Save As, Test, blah, 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 whatever you want to name it. Okay, and then we have a test Superbill. That was a bad one to use. All right, so once you have at least one Superbill in here, then you can go back over to Import, browse to that file that you saved, and click Open, and then you'll have that Superbill ICD-10 in your system. Now, if we wanted to go in, I'm just going to delete this one out of here so it doesn't, so it's not a third one. If we wanted to go in and print this, I can go into Edit and go up to File and Print. And it's going to let me preview it. And now we have a printed Superbill, 2 pages, front and back of what it looks like. Okay, so the Superbill is ready for us to send out. If you want it, let our support team know, and we'll be more than happy to send that out to you. I am going to throw one more thing in here. If you are using EHR in your office with Management Plus, if you have our EHR, I would strongly encourage you to utilize EHR and the ICD-10 conversion that they will be contacting you about. Use that to your advantage, because rather than having this piece of paper floating around the office trying to figure out codes, the ICD-10 conversion within EHR is set up to say, if you put in conjunctivitis, okay, if you put in that ICD-9 code, it's going to pop, and there's an ICD-10 button, you click that button, and then it's going to ask you, okay, well, I need to know for this code, which eye is it, right or left? And once you've selected that eye, it's going to give you, it's going to kind of map the correct coding for you, all right? Knowing that Management Plus cannot tell you how to bill or what code to use, we can only use the information that you enter in the system. It will map to the code based on what you've entered. But it is going to make your life so much easier if you use that ICD-10 conversion in EHR. We do not have, they're still working on their plan to roll this out to everyone for that conversion table. So just kind of keep it in mind, be patient. Someone from EHR support will be contacting you about that, but I want you to know about it because it's a lot easier for everyone in your office than having this piece of paper that says, okay, well, what does pound mean? What does percent mean? Again, education is the best thing that you can be doing right now. And if you have any questions, definitely let our support team know, and we will be happy to answer those for you. So I appreciate your time and hope you have a great day, and thank you for attending this webinar.